Meteorologist Matt Makins here. Welcome to Snow Bros. We're chatting about where the storm is now. There's actually a pair of things happening. We'll dissect that. The timelines have been updated with some slight wiggles to where the path of the storm is going based on the latest data. And based on that latest data, which we've been poring over, new timelines for DC, Philly. We'll throw in Richmond this time. Got new data coming into Long Island since we're responding to some of your comments. Long Island feeling left out. Well, we've got you included in some of the snowfall totals during this video. It is later in the day, January 24th. Thanks for following along with us throughout this week. Myself and Brian Shields, of course, have been tracking the system, basically a combination of systems coming together with this big wintertime impactor. One factor is the cold that's been coming out of Canada. The other factor is this low. See this curlicue? You can see that comma right in there. That's a low pressure area. What it's doing is it's grabbing water, tropical water, throwing that humidity up at that cold air. So areas like Texas and Oklahoma dealing with heavy snowfall throughout the course of the day. In fact, here's an animation to show you that this radar picture as it plays out. We're watching that area of snow getting heavier and heavier throughout Oklahoma. It's going to spread towards St. Louis and Memphis tonight. Speaking of Memphis, from Memphis down toward Dallas, toward Amarillo and Lubbock, and even into southeastern New Mexico. That area's had some icing during the course of the day. Heavy rain has left Houston, approaching New Orleans, and that snowfall kind of heavy also north of Memphis. It's going to head toward Columbus tonight, DC tonight, into Boston during the day tomorrow. But we also have ice to concern from Raleigh to close to Knoxville, Memphis, down toward Jackson. So that's the timeline in general. That's just watching the storm over the next couple of days. Let's get more specific. Now, where have things changed? The latest data has made some changes in snowfall totals from the Texas Panhandle to roughly southern Indiana. This little area right in here has just had a little slight northward movement, if you will, in that snow banding. From roughly Louisville all the way to Boston, very little changes. Boston area, we're still very, very close to the rain, the icing, the snow line, and it looks like Boston, so far, as it has most of the week, is the most uncertain area for total snowfall. DC, Baltimore, New York City, icing is possible to eat away at some of your snowfall totals. We'll dissect that. Speaking of icing, most of the total maps you're going to see in this video go through Tuesday morning, Tuesday midday. So icing, El Paso to Dallas, stretching up toward Nashville, Charlotte, and DC. Worst of that icing is right in here. We'll get this map zoomed in just a moment, and we'll get a very precise look at how much ice is going to fall in that narrow corridor in the interstates that'll be impacted. Quick check of the timeline here from El Paso to Dallas and Nashville. I just mentioned that icing potential. This is Saturday night. Let's go into Sunday morning. That icing now stretches out towards Charlotte, just south of DC. DC, heavy snowfall through there to Cleveland, to Chicago, Kansas City, to Santa Fe. Watch as we go toward early Sunday morning. This is breakfast time, roughly Sunday morning. Nashville, you're right on the edge of rainfall versus icing. North of Nashville, you get into Kentucky, say Louisville, you're right on the edge of the ice and the snow there. For Cleveland, Chicago, Kansas City, St. Louis, still snowfall, still snow in DC and New York. But watch as this ice, as we go through midday Sunday into Sunday evening, that icing area, yeah, it gets smaller, but it's focusing on areas from Charlotte to DC to New York. So there's the potential to get some snowfall in the mid-Atlantic and then throw some ice on the top of it during the day tomorrow. At this point, rain and thunderstorms from Charlotte down into the Gulf, and they'll continue to move off to the east, but that's the focal point at this moment, 7 o'clock Sunday, for heavy snowfall to set in on Boston, the rest of New England. It's going to move into Halifax during the day Monday, and we'll wrap up this timeline on Tuesday. As the system pushes out over eastern Canada, we still have additional snow on the way for the week. That's why I'm emphasizing in this video that our snowfall maps are ending roughly Tuesday morning, Tuesday midday. You may see other sources with bigger totals or lighter totals. Check their timestamps. See when that snowfall timeline, if you will, ends. Ours, again, ends Tuesday morning with additional snowfall later week from another system. Let's go down to the south first off. Updates here from Oklahoma City to Tulsa to St. Louis, just north of Memphis. Again, that's the kind of the stretch that I showed you that had a slight northward wobble, if you will, in the latest data. So right now, latest data, additional snowfall, perhaps a half foot to 10 inches or so throughout Oklahoma. North of Memphis, there'll be some heavier snowfall, same in Nashville, but the two may have 1 to 3 inches there along I-40. North of I-40, you get to I-57 and 64. That's the deeper snow pocket. What we're worried about from I-40 and 30 southward to about I-20 is going to be the icing. You can see some of the totals here, upwards of a half inch, if not more, of ice accumulation. I-55 in and out of Memphis could be very, very slick, and I-20 between Shreveport and Jackson. Then we look at I-40 from Memphis to Nashville, and then I-65 moving north of Nashville. That area also has some deeper ice in those pockets. That's where we're worried about the power issues, the trees, that kind of damage. That's the extent of it down to the south. Snowfall wise, we're going to take that past map and just shift it over a little bit. I want to bring in more folks. Try not to leave anybody out. Maps can get too cluttered, so you may have to find the closest point to you. But Lexington, Cincinnati, Louisville, Bloomington, and Owensboro, we're looking at a good foot to foot and a half of snowfall there. You go south though, and you can see how quickly we run out of the snow. We're going to focus here. We're going to shift these maps and kind of move more into the mid-Atlantic and the New England area toward the northeast after I show you the snow or the ice accumulation. The last ice map was right in here. I focused on that, but we still have northern sections of Georgia, South and North Carolina, into Virginia and West Virginia. We have these pockets of ice in here, like Richmond at a ½ inch, Roanoke at about a third of an inch. You get down to Winston-Salem, there's a third of an inch. Down to Asheville and Athens, staying mostly north and east of Atlanta, but likely ice issues on I-26, 85, 40, 81, 64. A lot of highways there, a lot of interstates to mention with ice accumulation on them. Going to be very slick travel Saturday night and Sunday in those areas due to that icing. Okay, now we're up to the north and east. There's the D.C. area, Boston, Augusta, here's Yarmouth and Halifax to kind of orient ourselves on that map view. We're going to be watching the Cape closely in this video down through Long Island to Philly, Baltimore, and D.C. Those locations have had the biggest shift in the data. It's not a huge jump in the data, okay, don't get me wrong, but that's where there's been a shift, bringing in some warmer temperatures, a little bit warmer. So we had to change the snow ratios, drop your snow totals there, and we may have to increase that icing potential in that region. So here's your timeline. Here we are this evening. We go into the overnight hours. Snow gets very heavy from Philly down to D.C. along I-95. Sunday midday, now that heavy snow is shifted up toward Hartford and Providence, arriving in Boston, arriving in Syracuse and Buffalo. So sections of 70 to 80 there, and even up to I-90 for that matter, progressively seeing that heavy snowfall move in from the south. But at the same time, Sunday at 1 o'clock, D.C., Baltimore, Philly, watch the ice area. The rain is also very close to you. So it's going to be a wintry mix in that area around D.C., the mid-Atlantic area through Philly, up to New York. And here's Long Island out toward the Cape. Watch how the Cape, Sunday evening at 7, has heavy snowfall. And then we bring a chance of rain and icing up there. Same for Long Island. So we're going to bring in a slightly northern shift of those warmer temperatures to change your snow into a wintry mix or perhaps some cold rainfall as we get into late Sunday. Now Monday into Tuesday, we'll continue to watch the system pushing up into the eastern areas of the Maritimes with heavy snowfall there, but we're still going to wrap around additional snowfall for New England in the Northeast, the Great Lakes, even the Mid-Atlantic. We'll have additional snow chances beyond Tuesday. Later in the week, another system will arrive. It could be packing quite a bunch of snowfall as well. We'll get to that in future videos. If you're subscribed, you'll get alerts to those. But let's go through the timelines more specifically. I'm going to start with Richmond this time. And here's our timeline down at the bottom. We've got Saturday at 7 o'clock. And I'll walk you through it. So for Richmond, for the next several hours, that's going to be the peak in our snow chances through early Sunday morning at about 4 o'clock in the morning. And then we start to see this line. See the pinks? That's the freezing rain or the rainfall here. These are the chances of getting freezing rain or rain. So after we're asleep Sunday night and waking up, or excuse me, late tonight into Sunday morning, then Sunday midday, we bring in the chance of that more of a wintry mix, the icing. And that's as temperatures are floating right around the freezing mark in a lot of cases in Richmond. So Richmond, you're going to start off with the snow overnight, and then we may see that wintry mix during the day tomorrow. Let's go up to D.C. D.C., similar situation. Kind of the peak in your snow chances starts in here. That's 1 o'clock tonight through 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. or so on Sunday morning. And then as temperatures get closer to the freezing mark, we're going to see by 7 o'clock Sunday evening, a chance has increased for icing on top of the snow that you received. That's going to reduce the snow totals, but it's not going to change the slick travel danger kind of situation as we go into Sunday night and Monday. Up to Philly now. Peak in the snow chances starts around 4 a.m., goes through 10 a.m. Sunday, goes into the mid-afternoon. And then right around 4 o'clock Sunday, that's when we start to increase our temperatures. That's that warmer temperature, kind of slug of warmth coming up from the south. So yeah, most of the day, Sundays, teens or 20s, but 7 o'clock to 1 a.m. Monday morning, 1 a.m. Monday morning, we're going to warm up, oddly enough, through the evening hours and the overnight. We're going to warm up to freezing, if not slightly above. And that brings in that wintry mix into Philly. Let's go up to New York City, a similar situation. Your timeline of snowfall arrives early in the morning, so 4 a.m. or so, kind of peaks around 10 a.m. We keep snow going until, at least a good chance, until about 7 o'clock. But right around 7 to 10 p.m. Sunday, that's when we may bring the temperatures up enough to throw in a wintry mix or cold rain or a sleety mess. That's in New York City. Boston, next. All right, take a look at Boston. Our heavier snowfall is still the focus. The rain chance has increased Monday morning. Keep an eye on that in future videos because that would eat away at some of our snow chances. But snow ramps up, say, for brunch Sunday and then through lunch, football time, into evening and supper. That's when we're really going to have that heavier snowfall moving in. For Boston, most of your snow starts in the teens to 20s. But then it gets up to about 30 degrees. And what that's going to do is play with that kind of snow consistency. Maybe early on it's a little bit of a lighter snowfall. We're going to change that and make it that heavier, more classic Boston style snowfall. In terms of totals, we're going through Tuesday morning here. We have a stretch here along I-70 to 80, up to 90, along 95 into Boston. Due to the kind of the little wiggle in the data that we've seen today, Brian and I decided to go up to about 16 or so in Boston, but at least still 12 to 18, in that range somewhere in there. But notice a heavier pocket of snowfall is just offshore here. That may need to come in if the system should slow at all or change direction. DC, Baltimore, Philly, and New York, mostly a 6 to 10 inch. Get to Syracuse, Buffalo, and we're out toward Burlington. These areas out in western and northern New York, again, more of a 6 to 12. And we'll talk about Canada here in just a moment. I want to go down to the south and we'll kind of pull in more folks. So don't want to leave anybody out here. So Richmond to Lynchburg, we talked about being on the southern extent of the snow, but just to your north, look along I-70 or even areas from Pittsburgh to Harrisburg. We're looking at a good 1.5 feet of snowfall potential, 1 to 1.5 feet there. Along I-80, that's the same situation. Scranton up to Albany or so in Syracuse, this same area we've kind of floated the last several videos for several days, right around that foot mark for that region. But you go down to the south and east of there, so just north of New York, just outside of Scranton, approaching Hartford, Worcester, we're looking about, 1.5 feet of snowfall is going to be possible in a lot of cases. Again, build in a range. We put specific numbers on here for your guidance, but you build in a range. You might be a little more, you might be a little less, those things. So here's our snowfall around DC. Again, we're working in with some warmer temperatures moving in. So if you're south of, say, DC, you've got a couple to a few inches. If you're around DC or Fredericksburg, Alexandria, up to Baltimore or Annapolis, you're still in that 1/2 foot to about 10-inch range. We haven't really changed that thinking over the last several days. Data is just making it more and more confirmed now. Dover out to Atlantic City and Philly. Again, the amount of rain or that warmth that comes in may eat away at these totals, but right now 5 to 10 inches is a very good range to be in. I-70 as you go kind of from the hilly country and then get a little flatter there along I-70. Once you get up against those hills, you're going to be looking at quite a bit of snowfall, 18 inches at least in a lot of cases. From the D.C. area, now we're up toward Philly, Allentown, Patterson, New York, Stamford. In the center of Long Island, I used MacArthur Airport for this point, but you're looking at 8, 9, 10 inches somewhere there for Long Island. But we can't have any wiggle room in that warmth moving in because that's going to eat away at some of your snowfall and change it to a rain or even some ice. But really from Philly to New York, out along Long Island, we're comfortably within that 5 to 10 inch range. You move just north of that, so along I-95 up to I-90, that's the 12 to 15s. I'm not going to be shocked if somebody says they get 18 inches or so in that region. And again, that's all the data that we have through today. Should somebody get 2 feet, I'm not going to be shocked at all. It's just those higher cases are going to be a bit more isolated. What I'm really interested to watch in future updates is this slug of the heavier snowfall here, coastal areas. Can it sneak farther inland? Can it raise Boston? Can it change Worcester to get the totals higher? Springfield up to about Pittsfield or so, even up to Concord. Maybe we increase those in future videos, just depending on the wiggle room of the system. Because remember some of those first slides, one element of this system is still well down over Texas. So we've got a lot of energy and it's got to move a long ways. So there will be some variations as we go forward. Thanks for subscribing. You'll get the alerts when we post those videos. I'm going to show Canada now, the eastern Canada, and this timeline go through Wednesday. Most of the other maps were through Tuesday morning or so. This goes through Wednesday. just to include the storm as it continues to move offshore. But around Nova Scotia, we've got 30 centimeters overall. You move into sections of New Brunswick, we're around Moncton, still 30 centimeters, but it doesn't take much to drop off if you move north or northwest of Moncton. And then as you look out toward, say, St. John's, or even out Trout River, St. Anthony, so we're in sections of Newfoundland, there's going to be quite a range here of 10 to 30, perhaps 40 centimeters we've got there. But yeah, 10 to 20 feels probably most comfortable because we're still going to deal with the rain-snow mix in some cases there in that far eastern area. But as you work inland, you can see the lower totals there. You're away from the main energy, you're away from the sustained snowfall. But there are additional storms that we're already tracking. Another one may arrive later in the week, so check back with us. We'll increase these as we go forward in time. One thing that I'm going to point out is, yeah, the snowfall and ice maps, we've seen some changes. This is the ice map that Brian and I showed you the last few days. From the DC area up the East Coast, now we're looking into Nova Scotia, and the ice has basically each update has slightly moved northward. And now we're introducing ice chances, say, around Halifax. That's just these little variations in the storm. And again, if we're introducing more ice, that means you have to factor some of that water will take away from some of the snowfall totals. But again, most of the focus remains DC and south. I'm just saying that's an element here along the East Coast into New England to watch for in future videos. It's not changing our perspective on the depth and the impact of that ice down to the southeast. Now, through the night into tomorrow, Brian and I will be updating the timelines for you. Any wiggle variations we'll bring to you. We're very transparent if you haven't figured that out. Additional storm shifts could impact the Northeast. The snow ratios, that'll wobble around for the next day or so for Boston through midday tomorrow into tomorrow night. We'll see where that warm slug of air moves. And again, talking about that, the tracking that slug of warmer temperatures, does it reach Boston? Does it change snow ratios there? Or is it happy enough to kind of stop it around Long Island, New York City, the DC area? That remains to be seen. But we have seen that warmth moving farther and farther north with each update. Until the next update, I hope you're doing really well. If I missed covering anybody, which I know I did, just leave it in the comments. Brian and I'll watch that stream. We'll reply to your questions. Have a great and safe weekend.